And hello there again, peoples. This is Stampede Valkyrie coming back at you with my gaggle of beacons. These are pretty much what I spent my summer finding. Just random Model 14s, and obviously one of these things is not like the other. We've got a Mars beacon back there. Mars beacon we're not really going to be touching in this video. This is just a matter of all sitting them in a box and then pulling them out. But what I do want to kind of talk about is the Model 14 and the variances between different series. The neat thing that I just noticed is that other than having 5 Model 14 beacons on here, each one of these beacons, or most of these beacons, are different from each other. Starting with the obvious, the two here on the left side, the tags both read Series A2 Model 14 beacons. These are older. Obviously, this is the dome that's most commonly found on the Model 14 beacon. And then this one here is the domes found on the Beacon Ray series lights, the larger diameter domes, the newer ones. So for anybody out there that didn't know, the Beacon Ray domes do fit on the Model 14 and vice versa. So if this fits on this, then this will fit on the Beacon Ray, and so on and so forth. Might get some clearance issues with this being flat up here on the top, but the diameters fit. How's that? But what I want to talk about is the different versions, and we'll open these up here in a moment. So we've got two A2s here. Coming back on the right, I've got an A4, an A3, and an A3. And really, right off the bat, externally they all look the same, except for the tags. So let's go ahead and pop some of these open, and we'll talk about them. And that's what this video will be about. So I've gone ahead and pulled the domes off the two A2s that I had here, and right off the bat you can see some of the differences, and especially the older series lights. So the A2 series, the A1 and the A2 series Model 14s had the full lamp cast holders, or full lamp holders, if you want to call it that. They're not skeletized. This will make sense a little bit later on in the video. This light here has the Twinsonic. I guess that's I want to say a type. I keep getting these things goofed after actually. I believe it's a Type 1 motor. So this is the Type 1 motor right here, found commonly in the Twinsonics and a lot of the 184, 284, so on and so forth. And then coming over here, we have another A2, obviously again, full cast lamp, or full metal round lamp holders. Does not have its gasket, which is interesting. I did not know that, so I'd actually need to get a gasket for this. It's not really needed for display, but if you're going to plan on putting it out and expose it to the elements, it needs a gasket here, which you can see right here. These just pop off. It just pops up and off, and you can clean them up and reuse them. This one here has the Type 1 motor. That's the big difference. I mean, internally they're the same, except this one has the harder to find motor, and this one actually has a date on it. If you look, September 2nd, that looks like 74. So this may be the older of the two beacons. The Series A1s were identical to this. I'm actually kind of surprised that there's an A2 tag on here. Something else must have changed, because this is literally, with this engine or with this motor, I would consider this to be an A1. But you can see how this works. Power comes in from the bottom, coming in via this, at the point here, this blue cord. It feeds up to a wiring block, which is found here, which then charges this copper plate right here, and then provides power to these two, if you want to call them brushes, which in turn then lights up the lamp holders, just like the Twinsonics. I mean, this is no different from what you would see on the master side of a Visibar, or the Model 11, or you would find in the Twinsonic bars, the lamp holder assemblies. Then the other part of the power then comes off here, goes to the motor, and these both go to ground. So it grounds to this cup, if you want to call it this aluminum cup. And then if you look on the inside of this thing, and all of the lights I'm talking about are going to be set up the same way. You're just going to see some changes. There's your drive gear, the worm gear, and it makes contact with the drive axle, and then the clutch gear, so on and so forth. Now this is not free spinning, so you're not going to want to go ahead and actually play with this or force this around unless you've taken the motor off the lamp. So this is the older one. I would actually say that this is more of an A1 series than an A2 series, but A1s weren't around very long. The A2s seem to be the ones that immediately came back with. So tag reads A2, so we're going to call that an A2. Let's look at this one. So again, the newer version of these beacons, a lot of things stay the same. Full round lamp or cast holders, or full round, whatever. The full non-skeletized, full round lamp cast metal holders. There we go. I actually got it out. So again, the same thing. Wire's going to come up from the bottom underneath, and we'll flip this guy up and take a look. You can see that. Wire's going to come up into here. It's going to hit this, going to energize this block, and then you're going to have your two brushes right there and there, which will provide power to these lamps. Then the other line comes off and feeds to the motor in here, and the whole thing grounds to the same thing, this aluminum base plate, so on and so forth. So at this stage, the only difference between this one and this one is the motor. And that's kind of interesting. I mean, again, it's one of those things that as they revision history, they go from there. I do like the fact that this guy actually has a date on the motor from 74. This one here, I'd actually have to decipher. You can decipher the codes on these motors if you can read them. I don't think I can read this one, at least not currently. It might be on the other side, so it might be hard for me to actually try to figure out what year this motor is. And unfortunately, the lamp holders, as I get this over here, this one does not have any serial number on them, so there's no serial number there. Now there are ways to tell manufacturer by the type of tag that's on this. This is the older style tag. As you see, it's going to change as we move forward. So with that said, let's go ahead and bring out the others, and we'll talk about what's different on those. Alright, so let's talk about the Series A3 and what's labeled to be a Series A4. So the first thing you're going to notice as we look at this one here, this is the A3. You're going to see that it does not have the full metal round lamp cast metal holders. There we go, I goofed it up again. These are the skeletized ones. These are found on the later series Twin Sonics, and also the newer 184s, 284s, so on and so forth. So that's your first giveaway. The second giveaway is the motor. This is a Type 3 motor. This is found very commonly on the Aerodynamic. It is also found very commonly on the Twin Sonic rebuild kits, or the newer Twin Sonics would use the same thing. But the setup other than that is almost the exact same thing. Like we're talking about outside of the motor and the lamp holders and the tag, this light is identical to the A2s. Again, the same type of clutch gear down there on the bottom, your power coming into the bottom, feeding off to the motor, which then has your worm gear right there and then spins the whole lamp. The A4, or what they're calling here an A4, this has the newer motor again. This is the Type A3 Aerodynamic motor. What is it? Again, this one is set up the same way, where it's got your worm gear and then your, obviously just like the other ones, there's not a lot of play there. You don't want to strip those out. Your drive gear or clutch gear. And then again, the full or non-full, the skeletized lamp holders is what they call these things. So again, the other thing that does change, and I don't have that example here, I have had them in some of my other videos, is the newest versions of the Model 14 and also the Target Tech, which was another Federal Signal brand, did away with these being metal at all, turned these plastic, and put the even cheaper motor than the Type 3 motors in here. And it does the same thing, except it's plastic lamp holders and the cheaper motor. I believe that the inside guts here are still the same. They might have cheaped out on that a little bit too with the later model A4s and the Series A5s and the Target Techs before they discontinued them. But other than that, these lamps are all largely the same. It's very basic, 2-lamp beacon. They all do the same thing. The one thing I did take notice from, and I'm assuming this is a department modification because I've seen this before with other departments, but just not as prevalent as what I'm encountering here. So let's talk about, and this is where I come into this. So here's the tag for the beacon on the left. There's my A3. You can see it's the newer tag. It's not the newest tag, though, that Federal had. There's a newer tag than this out, which is an older version of the A3 tag. But here's what caught my eye, and it's kind of interesting, as I almost lose the screw. Take note that the clasp on this one is not the standard clasp. It's actually 2, and they put a screw through it. This had to have been a department modification. I've seen this before with other lights, mostly lights to prevent theft or any sort of tampering, if that makes sense. Bear with me a second here. That type of setup would prevent tampering or somebody from getting in and stealing a dome or something like that. These were just basic flathead screws. This light has the same thing on it, again from the same department. And lastly, I didn't pull this one out because this one's been the grodiest on the inside. It's going to need the most work. You can see it in play right there with the screw holding the two together. Now what it should have for a federal light is over here, which is this, which is the clasp. And that's the clasp system. That's what's factory, found in the Federal Model 14s. Now, again, they don't look like these guys, don't look sloppy. It's possible maybe they ordered them like that. I mean, it does not look homebrew. Again, I'm not an expert on that. But it does the job. It holds the two of them together. And the only thing I need for these gaggle of beacons is I need a gasket. I mean, these two have gaskets. I need to get a gasket for that one. Other than that, they're complete. But I plan on giving these a cleanup for those that have questions in regards to the type of bulb that belongs in here. Obviously, that's wrong. That's a flood lamp bulb. That's not right. The lamps that belong in here are 4416 spot lamps. So that's what belongs in there. That's the right bulb, or at least I believe the right style bulb. The other one is the wrong style bulb. But that's it in a nutshell. I'm going to keep this one short. I know I have that... Where is she hiding? There it is. I have that Mars back there that everyone's going to drool about. I'm not quite on that yet. I think I'm just going to clean these up, and then I think I might actually just let them go out into the wild, maybe flip them back out if people are interested in them, just because I have a billion of these things, and again, just like that other aerodynamic, I don't need a billion plus one. So that's it. Hopefully your weekend's doing well. Lovely weather for me here in August. We're looking middle of August. And hopefully your summer's done well as well. So Stampede Valkyrie signing out.